Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Hospitality Marketing, show number 513. I am your host, Lauren Gray. Welcome again to Haarlem, Netherlands. Sun just came out front. I was going to say that this was a typical rainy Dutch day, which we've had so few of since we've been here. But lo and behold, sun's come popping back out again. So I am being proven wrong already. Anyway, thank you again so much for joining us. If you're watching us on our live TV channel, the Hospitality Channel, thank you for doing that. You can get that, of course, on your smart TV, Google TV, Apple TV, Amazon TV, Roku TV, all of it. So, if you're watching us on simulcast, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, we're off of Twitter. Twitter, our X is it's this pill of unhappiness. Anyways, we are thankful that everyone gets to watch us live, and also we do recast this, as we mentioned at the end of every show, and I'll bring up that fact of when and where that is very shortly. But let's get to today's topic. Today's topic was not even thought of, kind of a different topic about functional aspect of AI is a continuation from last week's show, talking a little bit more about implementation and usage, and we'll get to that actually. But I was having a rather lively conversation with a dear friend over a business that they've recently became a part of, and they were talking about the things that they were doing versus my questions of the things they haven't done. And the general response of it was, we'll either get to it. We didn't deem it as something we could do now or something that we had thought of or variety of stuff to it, which inspired me to basically begin to challenge them that because of the underdogs in their situation, they're new to market and everything else, that they should make a marketing strategy to for the biggest hater. So that turned into my topic this week because at first I started arguing the points for that statement to them that you have to look at what is it that your detractors, now your competitors, your detractors, your naysayers, your oh, that pretty much covers the spectrum that we must be interested in. All those people that basically don't see the value of what you're offering, or see that there's other alternatives, or see it that you're too late to a market, or that you are just not clear in what you're offering, so forth and so on. So I thought I'd spin that statement into a hospitality marketing conversation of, have you ever really role played, thought through, worked out a strategy that addresses what your worst critic would say about you, what your competitor would hope to exploit against you? And are you effectively combating that? Now, one of the first things that most people from in hotel history go to is say, well, we do a SWOT analysis. That is a tangible representation of your immediate comp set, your physical brick and mortar across the street competitor, as to what you measure up to against what they measure up to, what your strengths are to theirs. And of course, the later day SWOT analysis now that we tend to use, if even people tend to remember what they are, sadly, it's an old style technique that is still incredibly useful and should certainly be a part of everybody's annual, at least, marketing strategy. SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And what you do is you identify first who you're competing against, your comp set. Now, obviously, it amazingly echoes a lot of what you do with star reports and so forth, of which properties are we mostly aligned with, that or most would be in comparison to us, for the same demographic, the same user base would come to us, that would also come to them. And that gets defined into a smaller set. It can be a 4, it can be a 5 number, it can be a 6 number, it can be a 10 number. And we've had many conversations on the show over the years. 10 years we've been doing this, right? Every week. Plus, actually, coming up on our 11th year. That you can expand that conversation to include their online presence, and that there is a whole different comp set associated with your online presence. All great and wonderful. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. You compare yourself as to your inventory comparison. How many rooms compared to their rooms? What kind of inventory type compared to their inventory type? Their common space, their amenities, your location, their location, transportation in and around you, transportation in and around them, proximity to events and activities, and so forth. These are all based on a scale of opportunity. Sometimes just really a spreadsheet, us good, them bad, us good, of all these items. And from that, you were to derive your perception of what you need to do to compete with the people that you've identified into this list. Now, as I mentioned, online, as SWOT analysis should be expanded into, also opens up the door of who you compete with that aren't necessarily in your market. One of the biggest glaring ones is OTAs. How do you compare your marketing presence with the marketing presence that they have? Well, what's your strategy? How do you do this? It's easy and a shrug of most shoulders that people say, well, they have the deep pockets. They spend millions, billions of dollars in my market, and when have a strong presence in my market, I can't compete with them. That's a perspective issue, as to thinking that you are at an equal level to compete with them. You have to you pick and choose your opportunities by selectively choosing what you want to get from your marketing, rather than thinking that you have to brute force go head to head with what they're doing. They will always have more resources than you. They will always have more content than you. They will always have more finance than you. Those are the two easiest ones. And to think that you're going to battle them on a face to face like that is naive. You have to consider your uniqueness of being able to tailor your targeted marketing specific to types of people or conditions that people are looking for, and make sure that you're ever present in those better than how the OTAs are being used as a blunt exploratory or as a blunt offering. You're giving more specific dialogue, more specific content, more specific offers to very specific targeted audiences. That's how you win against OTAs, as a simple example. Another large glaring one that you compete against is online is your symbiotic markets. Markets that people consider equally to considering your market. And they may not be because they're like yours. Sometimes they're politically different than yours, but it's the demographics. Case in point, and I've pointed this out many times for all of you that have listened to me say this so many times over the years, the eye rolling will commence now when I say when operating properties in Key West, Florida, I was ever presently competing against places like Aspen and Vail, Colorado. And the reason for that is the demographics that were under consideration of coming to my properties in the Keys were trying to decide as to what they wanted to do. Did they want to go mountain slopes and snowing perhaps, or did they want to go beach and tropical? And that was the demographics I was competing with. And Aspen and Vail knew this very, very well. And they were very aggressive about targeting people that were looking at my market. So I got very aggressive about targeting people that were looking at their market. That should be a part of your SWOT analysis. Those are also competitors that you will have to compare yourself against and see what their strength relationship is compared to yours, their weakness relationship compared to yours, your opportunities because of that compared to theirs, and of course, the threats that you just can't, not because of the competitors, but the threats that they represent to you in the diminishment of the demand for you. I'm not going to go into a strategy section about SWOT analysis, but it does lend itself to the idea of creating a strategy to address your haters, which is the core of our conversation. How can you work through the things that are negatives, things that are soft spots for you, in a way that either diminishes their negative impact, which is sometimes the best you can do, just make it less painful that you have X number of rooms for SWOT analysis or X amount of presence online, okay, or your location is not as secure and as solid as other locations could be, okay, and then look at also the things that your competitors hope you don't exploit that are positives for you that they can't adjust for, the things that make you valuable, the things that make you unique compared to them. Those things need to stand out as well. Now, strangely, in the politics of executive committees, ownership groups, operations management companies, and so forth, they tend to harbor on the happy, good things a lot more than harboring on the bad and sad things that they really can get more benefit from. They tend not to dwell on the things they can't fix because that doesn't put them in a positive light as actually making an impact on those things. I say it's just the reverse. You need to address what is being said about you poorly, or what you know is poorly about what you have available. Maybe you have tired inventory. Maybe uh, you have a hard time representing your presence for a lot of the market drivers in your market. Case in point, you may be an airport hotel that's not near the downtown event cycle. So the best that you can try to get out of this relationships and stuff, is transient input output and also compression expansion to your market that you are turn into an affordable alternative. Not the first choice by anybody, but for those that want to save money, you're affordable and they'll make the transportation requirement to get into the downtown to do it. Conferences are like that a lot of times. Uh, what's coming up this end of this month, high tech. Uh, HFTP and HSMAI's commercial conference are all in Indianapolis, and I have clients in Indianapolis, and none of them are near the conference center. No, there are a couple that are in proximity to them, but they're not the first choices of those. And what the hotels downtown are losing, because they just think that they can call their price because they're in that proximity of the conference, is everybody's bleeding them out. They are more inventory expansion, massive expansion of inventory to the market, all undercutting price, which is making it harder for hotels to move up their price tiers or maintain the prices that they were hoping to get. And that's allowing unique opportunity for branded hotels that are not into the circle of most demand for the conference to garner opportunity, which is what my clients are doing, by getting, say, hey, you can get my brand rewards and you can do my brand values, and I can provide transportation alternatives for you, knowing that we're putting you out of the circle that you prefer to be in, but we're making it valuable to you that you have a brand relationship with what you're interested in getting as rewards. This is a way of compensating. This is a way of fixing the fact that if your detractors were saying you're a mid-tier brand out by the airport, you're nowhere near the conference area, don't even try. Just act as if nothing's going on downtown, unless somebody has to make it to the airport for an early flight out and they want to catch an overnight at your hotel because of the convenience of the shuttle. Park and flies are a huge thing too. Um, that's kind of a first level response to the idea, but the depth of saying, no, let's go after them with the value propositions that may be under consideration. Thinking this, market shifts, economies are shifting right now, and certain factors are rolling in. The cost and temperament of companies sending people to conferences is at least under question at this point. Is it really necessary, this travel? Is it this one that was one that we really shouldn't miss? Or on the conversations of the approval process of those that are going on mission for this. And those ones like high tech, HSMA is not near as much, but high tech especially, very expensive propositions to participate. Uh, Not just the cruise and the travel expenses and the overhead of that, but the actual getting in the door, having a booth space and everything else, massive expenses. So that's a heavy cloud. So if they can save a few $100s per person by making them hop in a van and drive extra distance because they have an affordable branded hotel, which will give them additional value points. Maybe they already have a local negotiated rate with them or consortium rate with them or something. Okay. And they get the brand benefit value for doing it. They'll do that. They'll make their crew go, hey guys, no, I know it would be great to be able to walk across the street, walk into the conference area, but you're going to take this van from the airport or hotel and you're going to go over and do your thing back downtown. And yes, it's adding an extra time to your morning, an extra time at the end of your day, but that's what's going to help us make sure that we have as much presence here as possible. That allows us to bring the extra people so that you're not burdened with too much work to do, so forth and so on. That's all a targeting program. That's all marketing. What I just rattled off is a strategy of looking at how can we take something that is not our strength. Our haters would say, don't bother, and find ways to find value in it. No, we're not going to get the lion's share. No, we're not going to dominate and do top rack. But our strategy is mid-tier, mid-price, value proposition, brand value. Work on the strengths. Work on the ways to say, what can we do that our haters would point quickly out and say is not worth to do, or, that's not a hotel to consider. Instead, to go over and say, you know what? There are aspects that we can pursue. There are niches that we can chase down that will allow us the ability to garner some business from this. And that piece goes to the pile. And then you go find another piece of similarities. The people that are displaced from the conference that wanted to do Indianapolis, but because the prices are exploding. Tell me this hasn't happened to you. You're planning to go to a destination and you're looking at prices in a couple of days of modern, and then other ones are either sold out or skyrocketing. You go, what the heck is going on? And you got to go look at the events and the destination to see, what am I stepping on here? I'm not going for it, But my gosh, look at that. And sure enough, there's something going on that's creating compression, creating the rate demand for it. And if your travel plans aren't movable, you have to look for alternatives. That's displacement value. Okay. And that's a strategy. That's a look at and see who we can chase down component of that. Because the businesses in this city, Indianapolis, continue the example, still have to have their training cycles of people coming in. There are still people coming in for the purpose of whatever they had to come in for. And it unfortunately landed on the weekend that all of this is happening, and they don't have the option of moving the travel dates for themselves. So they're faced with what alternatives exist. In the real world of how we plan travel, since you're flying in, you have to worry about transportation. Now, rent a cars and so forth are a reality of our lives when we travel to places that we then need to get locally around and we don't have infrastructure. But like here, we have amazing buses and trams and trains. Not really big on the bicycles because of just not really big on bicycles. Love to, but anyways. So there's a lot more alternatives to me getting, say, to a city here in the Netherlands and then deciding I want to do something in and around the city. I hop on a bus, hop on a tram and so forth and move around. In our um, US cities, we have less options like this. Not that buses don't exist in the larger metro areas, but the frequency of the schedule, the actual bus stops, and the ability to navigate that well from wherever you're staying. You might be staying at a nice hotel, but it's 5 blocks away from the bus station. Add a little rain or bad weather, that turns into misery versus pain. Then you get the bus. The bus has to go in the loop that it goes into because it covers so much territory because they don't have a denser bus structure. And so it's even longer time to get to your final place that you wanted to get to for it, where if you rented a car, the hotel has parking. Park it there, pay the rent a car. Those are the considerations of displacement travel. When these things are happening, say downtown, and you're not there for that event, but you have to be there for those dates, you have to figure, okay, so where am I staying? That's affordable. How am I getting around? That's practical. And what are my dining options? Because again, the density of the people, if you're too close to what's causing that density to happen, you have to share that space with people. You go into a restaurant after the conference lets out, you're standing in the same line that everybody from the conference is standing in, and you're not there for that. You're just there because that's the most convenient restaurant or the restaurant that you were going to. And now you have to deal with the crowds. So now you look at alternatives and things that you need to do that may have to push you a little farther away from those activities that you're not tethered to. These are people you can market to. I'm not trying to create doomsday travel scenarios. These are reality travel concerns for all of us when we travel. There's things that occur that will drive us to a market, and there's things that occur that are driving it harder to be at that market. Obviously, if we have flexibility in time, wow, that's not a good weekend to go. Let's look at the rate spread and see where else we might be able to choose another date that isn't so high. That's great when you have that option. It's not always the case. So these are people that you can market to. Now, how do you target them? You can. We've had several discussions of how to isolate out the way that you identify their actions. You have ways to go to your own data to see what those actions are that you want to encourage by creating offers and value for them. And from doing that, you create us to audiences. That audiences get propagated into lookalikes. Those lookalikes create audiences that are actually engaged, which propagates the data, and so on and so on. What incentivizes them? You define and decide what it is that gets these people to you. If it's a low ratedness of what you're having, and you know that that's a part of the puzzle, but the other part is making sure that you give them resources for rent-a-cars. How close are the rent-a-cars, or things that you know about? If there's a value proposition that you can offer about transportation, if there is public transportation that you are connected to in a good way because of your location, excellent. So now, going to the same example back that we did about Indianapolis and so forth, you may have an airport near to your property hotel that has the shuttle gets you back and forth to the airport. Bingo, no cost, no great value for that. Two, you can get rent a cars do needed in the immediate area as well, which makes it convenient and easy for when you do need them. A lot of people are, I wouldn't say are lazy, but they look at it as to rent it for the whole time seems to be a more practical way than renting it the days that you need it. I have done this a couple of times. I can't say one is better over the other because the prices are too variable to demand. But I have found that there are times that if you're on a multi-day stay, you don't need a car multi-days. The inconvenience of returning it and coming back and get another day that you do need it and getting another car and using it just that day, the prices do tend to be cheaper to do that should you need that rather than just let the car sit in the parking lot. Now, as corporate travel goes, if it's not our dollar, with car sits in the parking lot. I'm not going to be inconvenienced by going back and forth to the airport with a rental car and then a shuttle bus back just because I'm trying to save a couple of dollars. But when it is your dollar, it is something that, and then these are things that you can identify with people in context and dialogue. You can do with Q and A's. You have the ability to help people navigate what their concerns are for their travel plans and value what you are offering for them. How does this work into our conversation about building marketing strategy against your biggest haters? This is the stuff that they will wag a finger at and say, "Why go through all that? Why be out there by the airport? Why go over and settle for a mid-tier hotel? Pay the price and stay at a location that is conveniently closer. We have higher, more amenities, for whatever are all the reasons that they want to make." Well, you're creating a counterbalance to that conversation. If you break down the things that people are negatively looking at what you don't have, are incapable of doing, or limited by, and can devise an answer that can, again, mitigate the negativity, okay, if not totally negate it, and also amplify your positive features to compensate for the ambiguity of things that half a dozen of one and six of another properties, like you can be compared equally just because maybe the other properties across the parking lot from you. Maybe it's in proximity to you that there's no real difference between what you're offering and they're offering, minus the aesthetics of what your hotel looks like compared to theirs. Then you go into your demographics as to what your hotel represents closer to compared to what your competitors. That goes back to your SWOT conversations. But if you think through how can you have an answer for your biggest detractors? Zig Ziglar, way back in the day, The Art of the Sale or Selling, talked about working through the nose, not NOSE, but NO, comma S, hyphen S, not hyphen. Anyways, the idea is think of all the things that you hear from people as to why they didn't choose you. Now, I'd say that because it's great to always take surveys of your guests. Pre-stay, what brought you to us? Post-stay, what did you think about us? What would you say that you know? What would you tell us about ourselves? How can we improve? What did you think about us? Would you come back again? You know, the NAP score, so forth and so on. Um, that process is wonderful if it filters into the hands of the people that can use it. It has to get out of the hands of the people that talked to the guest into the hands of those people that navigate the marketing strategies, the tone, the content. It's critical that all the communication in both ways, marketing talks to the people so that they understand what's being done so they can communicate better face to face with the guests. So it's a two-way flow as to all these things that are going on. All of the front of the house staff, back of the house staff need to understand the mission statement of what your hotel is doing. And they understand what's being done for the mission statement of your hotel. So none of them feel like they have no clue. And because it creates resentment. If you don't include them in the process of what's being done, there's no commitment to maintaining it and no support of it, just an ambiguous, like, I do my job mentality, which will only get them and you so far. From all of that, you begin to understand what people say about you in such a way that you know what you can say in return to to that. Like, your room's very small and dark. Thank you for the insight, so forth and so on. You can't add more windows. And I doubt very rarely, unless you do a full room renter, you're going to be adding more lights, although you can change the luminosity of lights and so forth. But that's not really what we're talking about. We're talking about the fact that they for the reason of why they're being with you, they feel that your product has these limitations. So in the process of your content and your haters saying, that hotel, yeah, not many windows, rooms are really dark. You look at the reviews, they reviews saying the same thing. Think of two things. One, who needs dark rooms? Well, flight crews do for transition time. So you can actually improve that and say, hey, look, everybody tells us we have dark rooms. We all have night out curtains for you as well. So pitch black sleepy time. One positive way of looking at that. Second aspect, what compensates for it is all the things you do because you're not in the room. Maybe the way you message yourself that you didn't come to our destination to stay in a room all day. Talking like that And then them seeing the reviews about it being a dark room, they're like, yeah, okay, so it's dark, but they're right. I'm not going to that location to sit in the room all day. And maybe if you have larger common areas, and if the rooms are small, so it's, we have great common areas for that very reason. We want our guests to feel comfortable in an environment that's much more open. Your room is for your own private space and sleeping. Oh, great. Common areas are, in fact, if you need to sit down with a nice cup of coffee, because we have this never empty coffee bar over there or something, or beverage center or whatever. You tailor the communication in a way that no matter what your naysayer says, whatever no comes to you, you have an answer as to why it's not as bad as they're presenting it. Doesn't mean that you totally nullify it. Okay, like again, your negatives, you might at best be able to mitigate them. Okay, lessen the impact of what they are in representation to you. The application of the positives help with that as well. So thinking through all the things that could be the worst things said about you and having a strategy as to what you would do about it, what you would say about it, how do you act on it, how do you manipulate it in your messaging so that it could be conveyed differently and less negatively, is all a part of what I'm saying, making a marketing strategy for your biggest haters. You need to go through that. You need to work through the no, as Zig Ziglar would say, okay? And talk about how, if this has been presented this way, if there's a person between me and a competitor, and the competitor is telling everything about why they shouldn't do business with me and do business with them, you need to have your answers. You need to, one, protect what it is that's yours so that you point out that whatever's being said about you is not as dramatic as being presented. And two, be careful of glass houses. You are pointing out things that you yourself struggle through and also these other items as well. So again, being able to plan through all the hating of somebody on your business gives you the strength of creating a strategy that's solid. It again softens your negatives, amplifies your positives, and it makes your team feel that we're not ignoring things like, well, we don't talk about that because we can't fix that, or that's just the thing, and hopefully they won't notice. Everything you hope they don't notice, they do notice. So your team believes that you're always thinking positively and working strongly towards doing the best that the business can, which makes them feel loyal to why they're working as hard, or what you ask them to work as hard for the businesses as well. Well, I think I've covered the topic the way I wanted to. Marketing strategy for your biggest haters, addressing all the no's and everything else. I hope it's giving you a little bit of pause or rethink on some things. I mean, I imagine there's a little head shaking going, yeah, that makes sense, or "Ooh, okay," because it's a very objectively opinionated way of approaching marketing. It's looking at the information you've already looked at. It's looking at the context of how you put it together. It's looking at the way you've already answered it and said, is there something better? And is there something we should change? And is there something we should do right now about it? And that's the real value of taking the context of how you can work through what the haters would say about you. So, my name is Lauren Gray. For all of you watching us live, thank you so very much for that. All over the time zones, 209 countries we broadcast our TV station into. For all the simulcasts on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. It's not Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch. Okay, no Twitter. Thank you so much for all of our associations of organizations and corporations and everybody else that broadcasts our show. Thank you, as always, for allowing us the privilege of doing that. And of course, if you have any questions about what the show, what we're talking about, and also about our podcast, which we do more on technical how-tos and so forth, our audio podcast, we're doing that for 18 years now. Almost 19. Wow. We're also a radio station, Hospitality Radio. You can it's a digital radio station, but you can go to hospitalityradio.com, broadcast there as well. But you go on your digital radio stations, Spotify's and so forth, it's out there. And if you are a hospitality marketing professional, you can join our peer level group at hospitalitymarketing.club. That is a peer level group of hospitality marketers. We collaborate on items and so forth, which is a wonderful way. Sometimes when you're doing this stuff, talking to a vendor you pay, you're going to get a biased sometimes, or within the service profile answer. That's not a complete answer as to what to think about. Sometimes you just think about what ifs, and you need to expose that lack of understanding on something, and you don't want to do that to your internal team or to your third party, because that gets leveraged politically in conversations in the future. You want to be able to have a nice safe space where you can ask silly questions and also be as helpful to others as possible. Hospitality Marketing Club is the place. It is for journeyman level marketers. It's not here to teach you, get certified in marketing. This isn't for it. This is to help you in the progress of doing your work as a hospitality marketer. And you can reach us at hospitalitymarketing.club. So with that, my name is Lauren Gray. I thank you for the privilege of your time, and we look forward to talking to you next week.